Some horror movies cross the line. Too violent, too disturbing, too much. Censors banned them or trimmed entire scenes, hoping to keep them buried. But many of these films eventually came back, released uncut on Blu-ray, VHS, or DVD. They went too far, and that's exactly why they're watched. The Devils is Ken Russell's interpretation of a real historical figure. Urbain Grandier, a 17th century French priest, accused of witchcraft and executed during a wave of religious hysteria. The film plunges into graphic violence, sexuality, and anti-clerical imagery, a mix that predictably ran into censorship trouble. Even before facing any ratings board, Warner Brothers cut 2 major scenes after realizing the film was far more extreme than they'd expected. When submitted to the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, even more footage was removed just to allow a theatrical release. To this day, the uncut version has never been officially released. A partial restoration exists, but key scenes remain missing or locked away. Warner Brothers still refuses to release the film in full, even 50 years later. The Last House on Dead End Street is a raw, nightmarish descent into underground horror. The film follows a disgruntled man recently released from prison who begins making snuff films, staged depictions of murder, or so the viewer hopes. Shot on 16mm with virtually no budget, it's abrasive, amateur, and often incoherent, but its roughness only deepens the sense of unease. Originally titled The Cuckoo Clocks of Hell, the original cut reportedly ran 175 minutes and premiered at Cannes in 1973. This version is now considered lost. Its road to release was chaotic. Legal troubles, including a lawsuit from one of the actresses over a nude scene, kept it in limbo for years. The film eventually resurfaced under different titles, The Funhouse among them, and finally settled as The Last House on Dead End Street, aiming to echo the notoriety of Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left. In the United Kingdom, the film was never submitted for official cinema classification. It was briefly scheduled for video release, but due to the growing hysteria around so-called video nasties, distribution was shut down before it ever reached store shelves. Even the printed sleeves were destroyed. Only in 2000 did Roger Watkins come forward online and confirm he had written, directed, produced, and edited the film. Faces of Death became infamous for blurring the line between fiction and reality. Framed as a documentary, it stitched together stage scenes, fake deaths, and real footage pulled from news archives, creating the illusion of a forbidden, uncensored look at mortality. Though most of its content was fabricated using practical effects and actors, the film still managed to shock audiences worldwide and build a reputation as one of the most disturbing films ever made. Its marketing claimed it was banned in over 40 countries, though the actual number was much smaller and usually temporary. By today's standards, Faces of Death looks dated and amateurish, but at the time, it pushed boundaries and fueled endless debate over media violence and authenticity. Part hoax, part horror, and part cultural artifact. Possession begins with a woman asking her husband for a divorce. He's a secret agent, but that's not the reason she wants to leave. She won't explain why. What starts as a domestic conflict quickly spirals into chaos. Her behavior grows more and more erratic, dragging the film into surreal horror, emotional collapse, and grotesque imagery. Isabelle Adjani's performance is famously intense, raw, haunting, and deeply unsettling. Again, the UK took the harshest stance. The film was banned for 18 years and labeled a video nasty. Other countries only allowed censored versions, cutting over 30 minutes of the most disturbing scenes, especially those involving a strange and monstrous creature. Possession begins with a crumbling relationship, but becomes something far stranger and far harder to forget. In Tennere, American horror writer Peter Neal travels to Italy to promote his new novel. But soon after his arrival, a woman is murdered with a straight razor, and pages from his book are stuffed into her mouth. As more killings follow, the murderer begins sending Peter disturbing letters, claiming inspiration from his work. Peter becomes entangled in the investigation, while being stalked by both a killer and his ex-wife. The police urge him to leave the country, but the body count keeps rising. Directed by Dario Argento, the film blends mystery, violence, and stylized horror in true giallo fashion. Argento was inspired to write Tennere after receiving phone calls from a fan who accused him of damaging people psychologically with his films. The movie was released in several heavily edited versions, but only gained true recognition after its full 110-minute cut was restored. In 2016, the uncut version was released on DVD and Blu-ray and is now considered one of Argento's finest works.